In conversation with Richard Ralphsmith, the founder and creative director of DPR Co, talking about this whole business of positioning companies, private brands, and then, of course, you've got government messaging as well. I mean, Richard, we all understand, I don't know how you can actually wash your hands for 20 seconds straight under warm water because the soap tends to wash away. But either way, getting that kind of message out there and keeping it fresh and keeping it active, I found extraordinary that we've reached a stage in our country where the government has to advertise wash your hands. It is wearing a bit thin, but how does government now reactivate this? Because government, I think, is going to have to spend even bigger money now on trying to get some of these messages out there, these basic messages.
Well, the first stage of the campaign has been pretty solid. It's been just these illustrations, childlike simplicity that's been delivering simple, basic messages about hygiene, and people are pretty much understanding that. But we have seen a lot of, as you know, flouting of social distancing measures. And in some sense, we need to think a bit more broadly about genuine behaviour change. And genuine behaviour change is a much more specialised and more difficult discipline in advertising than simply communicating basic messages. So you've actually got to try to appeal to people in an emotional sense, and that really means appealing to their limbic brain. So that's the part of the brain that deals with emotions and motivation and behaviour. And so if you really need to forge genuine difference in attitudes and behaviour from people, you've got to try to find a way to emotionally connect with them. And at the moment, for instance, if we're seeing in particular among young people, we're seeing people flouting social distancing rules, and there's probably a sense that, well, we know that there's a sense that I'm not going to get hurt here. This is not going to hurt me or my friends. None of us are going to die. And so why can't I do it, Mum? Why can't I go out and kick the footy? But if you can frame the message in such a way that it's, well, okay, maybe you won't, maybe you will. But what might happen is that you might kill your grandmother by doing it. You might actually pass the virus on to somebody who's much more vulnerable than you. So that's the sort of emotive message. We need to strike a chord with people, and it's a much more difficult discipline to undertake than just simple, clear, basic messages.
Well, look, either way, people mostly have done the right thing, and the big fines in the background probably keep us all a bit on the straight and narrow. But equally, if the government's gone through this kind of survive mode, this is the way it's being put to me from within government, that it's been a survive message, a survival message. We're about to go into the revival message. So you want to talk about the kind of, build up Australia, let's get back to work, let's be innovative. I mean, that's going to be the next kind of make everyone stand up and get on with it kind of campaign. That sounds pretty exciting to me.
Yeah, well, if you have a think about it, there's been such a surge in economic patriotism occurring. And that's the sort of thing that could form the basis of that next stage, like you're saying, the Revive campaign from the government. And I think that they should seriously be looking at this, because there's a huge swell of, I think, pride amongst the general population of just how well Australia, let's face it, through a combination of good fortune and good management, has come through this, at least from a health point of view thus far. Not to say that we're out of the woods, yes, but thus far, we've done an amazing job. There is a sense of pride in that. People are aware of what's going on in the rest of the world, and they do feel a real sense of pride of how well we have handled it. They also know the economic cost that it's coming at, because everybody is feeling it in one way or other. So people understand that what we need to do now is to start to think about the ways in which we can support our economy, the way we can support our social structures by doing those things that are going to bring us out, revive and then thrive. So it's more than just buy Australian made. It's favouring Australian companies, for instance. Look at a company like SPC. SPC out of the Golden Valley in Victoria. They've got so many things going for them at the moment. For a start, they're benefiting from the economic patriotism that we've got. They're dealing with canned foods. And at the moment, canned is cool once again. They're dealing with, tomatoes, Australian grown tomatoes, and right now, you might imagine Australian tomatoes are a lot more popular than Italian tomatoes, for instance. So there's one example of a company, and there are so many others that Australians are going to start to rally around and say, you know what, we can't just rely on imports and overseas supply chains anymore for everything we're doing. We need to start to build up, not only support these individual businesses, but also go further and start to support the entire economy and social structure that's going to get us all out of this. And I agree with you, Gary, that the government will need to probably spend quite a few dollars on a campaign that gets us there and really tap into those patriotic sentiments that people are really feeling quite strongly now and will more so.